Aretha Franklin.
Welcome to the Kiss FM Classic Soul Legends Hall of Fame. I'm Lenny Green, and I'm your host for tonight. This week, we are honoring Lady Soul, the Queen of Soul, the one and only Aretha Franklin. Aretha has had such an enormous impact on our culture and popular music. Since she burst onto the music scene in 1955 as a very young gospel singer with her father, the Reverend C.L. Franklin Church Choir. What makes Aretha so significant to our culture was her unique ability to blend her gospel roots, just like the great Ray Charles, with R&B, jazz, and pop tunes. Not until Aretha hit the scene had we ever, I said ever, experienced the soulful music and sound of a female singer. Black women, even in the late 50s and into the early 60s, did not sing like Aretha. She exemplified the soulful gospel approach to singing, combining the best of gospel and R&B. Blessed with extraordinary range and incendiary gospel-inspired phrasing, Aretha went on to become the country's leading female vocalist and the very first female performer to inject the rhythms and intensity of black gospel music into mainstream pop. And Aretha helped create a market for albums for the black record-buying public. Aretha was born on March 25th of 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee, and later moved with her father, C.O. Franklin, as he and Aretha's mother separated, to Detroit, Michigan, to become a minister at the New Bethel Baptist Church. Aretha was immediately drawn to the music of the church, and she was taught the art of gospel singing by the likes of gospel divas Mahalia Jackson, Clara Ward, and Marion Williams. Let's listen for a moment to a very young Aretha singing on her first gospel album on the Checker label in 1956. This initial effort by Aretha clearly showed her raw talent and the need to harness that talent.
The church, certainly gospel are my roots, and it certainly served as a testing ground for me as a singer, as well as many other good things came from the church. And it's just a feeling that you get there that you don't get anywhere else.
Aretha was raised in the church, and so was I. I guess your music, what's in your body, what's in your soul, or the way you came up is somehow or another will come out through your fingers or come out through your vocal cords or whatever.
In order to fully understand and appreciate the development of Aretha as an accomplished artist and vocalist, we will look back at Aretha's career in 3 stages with 3 different record labels: the Columbia years, the Atlantic years, and the Arista years. Aretha was signed to Columbia Records in 1960. Although Columbia knew that Aretha was a unique talent, it did not treat her like she was a unique talent. Instead, Columbia wanted Aretha to be another Billie Holiday.
God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own.
Another Dinah Washington.
What a difference a day made.
Another Dionne Warwick.
If you see me walking down the street and I start to cry each time we meet, walk on by.
Another Brenda Holloway.
Every little bit hurts. Every little bit hurts.
Barbara Lynn.
If you should lose me, oh yeah, you lose a good thing.
And even a female Johnny Mathis.
I can't understand why I get missed stay holding your hand. Whoa.
Columbia did not, nor could it quite harness this enormous talent. However, in retrospect, the Columbia years, although not a breakthrough period for Aretha, were significant for the blues she created, for the music she created. On her first LP for Columbia, entitled Aretha, it definitely gave us a clue of what to expect from Aretha. Here is Isaac Hayes.
Aretha Franklin had a very, very, very significant impact on R&B music. And I say that because up until that point, R&B music had kind of it had a swinging touch, but it didn't have that direct gospel influence. When Aretha came on the scene, she was on Columbia label at the time. It was around 1960. And she sounded like she stepped right out of the choir stand and right behind the mic and just belted out a song called Today I Sing the Blues. That was on Columbia. She did a flip side of that. I think it was It Won't Be Long. It was an up-tempo. All the other tunes on that album was like torch songs and, pop, soft tunes. But she brought a whole new meaning to R&B. I think that was during the time that the title made a transition into soul music. It was around that time. And Aretha put her stamp on the tune, and you knew it was Aretha Franklin. And she was not apprehensive. She did not hesitate about opening herself up and just putting the feeling right into those lyrics. And it really communicated to people. And I guess that's why, we call her Queen of Soul.
Yesterday this time I'll sing a love song. But right now I'm singing the blues.
This song, Today I Sing the Blues, reached as high as number 10 on the R&B charts. Aretha went on to record other tracks during this period that again generated modest success and interest in her talent. The word was beginning to circulate within the industry that Aretha was being underutilized by Columbia Records and that the label was using inappropriate material for Aretha, not suitable for her talent. Nonetheless, Aretha stayed with Columbia Records for 6 years until 1966, and in that time, she recorded some notable tracks.
What is romance without the one you love?
Here is legendary R&B producer Clyde Otis.
Back in '65, I had done 3 albums with Aretha, and she and I had a talk about the movement happening in the South, and she wanted to do something about that. So we came up with a song called Take a Look, and Aretha recorded it. I then took the tape in and played it for Goddard Lieberson at Columbia. He said, Clyde, I like that record, but I don't think that we at Columbia Records should be involved politically in this climate that's going on right now. So I went back and told Aretha, and she said, well, Clyde, I want to do something for the movement. I said, I know. I said, well, look, all I can do now Aretha, is I put the song out, hope and pray for the best. We did that, and we got some play, but without Columbia's blessing, nothing would happen.
Before it's too late, and tell them nobody wins when the prize is hate.
That closes Aretha's Columbia period. More from our classic soul legend, Aretha Franklin. After only achieving modest success and recognition on Columbia Records, Aretha signed with Atlantic Records in August of 1966 by Jerry Wexler, the then president of Atlantic. Why would, you might ask, the great Jerry Wexler, who had been responsible for the likes of music legends Ruth Brown and Ray Charles, take a chance on a young singer who only had modest, and that may be kind to say, success on Columbia in 6 years? Quite frankly, Wexler, based on his experience with Ray Charles, understood the dilemma of Aretha Franklin. On the one hand, she was clearly an enormous talent that had been restricted and limited by the Columbia record executives. Wexler, on the other hand, knew how to get the best out of this type of talent. After all, he gave the world Ray Charles. Here's Jerry Wexler on signing Aretha Franklin.
Well, being in the business of rhythm and blues, I was interested in singers other than our own. I mean, we had Ruth Brown and Laverne Baker, two of the greats. But I was interested in people like Hatter Brooks, Savannah Churchill, and Aretha Franklin. In those days, one kept one's ears open to hear what the competition did. But it was more than a competition. It was the appreciation of a fan, because my partners, Ahmet Ertegun, Nesu Ertegun, and myself, came into the business through the route of being fans of jazz and blues. Hatter Brooks used to knock me out. Savannah Churchill, Dinah Washington, the Queen. Naturally, I had heard Aretha Franklin's first record on chess when she was 13 years old, something she did in church, and it was spectacular. And of course, I heard the record she did for Columbia, which there were a lot of beautiful records. Maybe they didn't catch our essence, maybe they didn't find the commercial hook for her, but no doubt that the records were good. Of course, they were, in a sense, all over the map, in that they did everything from Basin Street West to Las Vegas, jazz to pop blitz and so on. But she made beautiful records. I had a friend at that time, two friends, Jimmy Bishop and Louise Bishop, who were disc jockeys in Philadelphia. And Louise, who worked under the name of Louise Williams, was a gospel disc jockey. And we always talked about Aretha. And I said to Louise Williams, if you could ever find out that Aretha got free, if you could notify me when such a time might occur, I'd appreciate it. I didn't ask her to intervene on my behalf, just to find out and give me a phone number. Well, sure enough, I was recording Wilson Pickett, Muscle Shoals, when I got the call from Louise Williams. She said, here's the phone number. Call it, and I did. And a few days later, Aretha and her then husband, Ted White, came to Atlantic, and we entered into a contract. And that was it. It was the intervention of a friend.
6 months later, in January of 1967, Wexler took Aretha to the famed Muscle Shoals studio in Alabama to record her first song for the Atlantic label, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, which some music insiders say reflected Aretha's own turmoil in her marriage to Teddy White. This song went as high as #1 R&B and #9 pop, and R&B music would never quite be the same again.
Loved a man the way that I love you. But this is what I'm gonna do about it.
Aretha played keyboards on this song. On the other side of this song, Wexler struck gold with another hit the first time out of the box with this B-side track, Do Right Woman. first product for Atlantic proved so successful that Wexler had to rush the Muscle Shoals studio musicians up from Alabama to New York City to complete the I Never Loved a Man LP in a record 5 days. That album went gold and #1 R&B. Aretha had arrived, and she was now given the creative control she so craved and given the freedom to combine her gospel training with the demands of popular and R&B music. There was no stopping Aretha. She fully understood her appeal to the public, her plaintive cry of love found and love lost. Aretha was named Billboard magazine's top vocalist in 1967. She was fast becoming the Queen of Soul, and the hits just kept coming.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, T-F-T-C-T. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, Zillary say. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Ooh, yeah, little bit, Zillary say. Just a little bit. You make me feel. You make me feel. You make me feel like a natural woman. Ain't no way for me to love you if you won't let me.
Here's our music historian, Johnny Meadow.
Aretha Franklin had a voice like no one else's. She had the ability to live and interpret a song and a lyric like no other performer. When she says, I love you, you hear all the warmth of love. And when she says, I hate you, you hear all the contempt in the word hate. She managed to live and get inside the lyric, make it mean something, sell it to you. If you hear her do Sam Cooke's You Send Me, on the fade, you thrill me, kill me. She has a way of living everything she sings. Proof of the pudding. She ranks #2, charting more hit records than anybody other than James Brown on the R&B charts.
This is a house that Jack built, y'all. Remember this house? Say a little prayer for you. The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you.
In 1971, Aretha wanted, with the prodding of Jerry Wexler, to expose her talent to the pop side of the music business and decided to do a live album at a venue noted for its rock, pop, and hippie association, the famed Fillmore West in San Francisco. The album was simply titled Aretha, Live at the Fillmore West, and it was significant for its spontaneity evidence in Aretha's live performance, and has been described by music critics as probably the best live recording at the time, and easily demonstrated that Aretha's gospel upbringing was still very much alive and well at the Fillmore West. Here is Jerry Wexler again.
That was very interesting. It was a thing that Bill Graham and I had set up. Bill Graham wanted her out there, and I thought it would be very good for her to go. And we had to make certain sacrifices, certain financial sacrifices, to get her out there. Of course, I was very apprehensive about how Aretha would go down in the land of the Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead, whose music was a far cry from hers. And I was really apprehensive that the stoned-out Fillmore hippies wouldn't get it. However, quite to the contrary, they were probably one of the most responsive audiences that I ever encountered. They understood all of the nuances. They understood the grooves. They reacted at the right time. And we just had a tremendous evening. They got into such a swinging, emotional groove that it just took the place by storm. It was an unexpected bonus.
Don't send me no doctor. Fill me up.
is Dionne Warwick.
We call it squalling. When Aretha reaches for a note to express a feeling, that is very typically gospel. When she does these wonderful runs that no one else does better than she does, that's typically gospel. So everything that she does, she still carries forth her gospel training.
Here is Johnny Meadow.
No one will ever forget who Aretha Franklin was or what she achieved. They called Dinah Washington the Queen, and the successor to that throne was Aretha Franklin.
Here is David Ritz, noted music author and author of the forthcoming biography on Aretha Franklin.
But when I think Aretha's voice is so deep and vast and emotionally charged and technically accomplished that 100 years from now people are going to, go back, and if they want to understand what was going on in the United States, what our anxieties were, what our hopes were, what our apprehensions were, what our hopes were, they're gonna put on Aretha, and they're gonna hear this country's voice. And I think that's like the highest tribute you can give to a vocalist, that they have kind of this archetypal that they become an archetype for an entire country. And also, I think from an African-American point of view, the wonderful thing about Aretha is that in her voice, there's all this pride and there's all this dignity and power and strength. And, when you listen to Aretha, you're proud.
In tribute to her gospel upbringing in 1972, Aretha recorded a live album of gospel songs at a church in the Watts district of Los Angeles and featured the Reverend James Cleveland and the Southern California Community Choir. The album was simply titled Amazing Grace. This would be Aretha's final collaboration with Jerry Wexler, and it won a Grammy for Best Gospel Album and proved once and for all that gospel could be as soulful and funky as any idiom. Amazing Grace clearly demonstrated the line between gospel and R&B music was indeed very thin, if not non-existent. From 1973 until she left Atlantic in 1980, Aretha worked with a number of different producers, including Quincy Jones, Lamont Dozier, Arif Mardin, and Curtis Mayfield. These collaborations proved slightly successful and allowed Aretha to broaden her appeal with such hits as Giving Him Something He Can Feel, produced by Mayfield, and Until You Come Back to Me, produced by Mardin and Tom Dowd. Here's Tom Dowd.
Aretha, I said it about her when I wrote liner notes. Aretha cannot sing a bad note, cannot pick a bad song. I mean, there's very little that woman could do wrong musically. Forget it. The thing is, you just have to put her in an environment that makes her feel comfortable so that she can let loose. It seems to me that in manicuring arrangements and creating scenes for her to step into, she was capable of singing. I mean, she never made a bad album for Columbia. She just didn't make a timely album while she was there. And when we got her, there was one other thing that I have bragged about once or twice, but it's not bragging, it's just an observation that I made. Whenever we were recording Aretha, we had her sitting at the piano playing while she was singing. And this is something that I was not adverse to. I mean, I'd done Ray Charles like that for years. And I made certain that as often as possible when we were recording her, that she was sitting at the piano and playing, because I like that artist better. And they're both wonderful artists, don't misunderstand me. But the one that I thought all the compassion came from was the sit-down, sing and play artist, like sitting in, like somebody in church playing gospel music and singing at the same time, the way Ray would at a piano with his head bobbing and weaving, but when he has to sing, he's always on mic. Well, I got the same sensation with Aretha. If she was sitting at the piano and playing, she could bob and weave and emote all she wants, but whenever she went to open her mouth, by God, she was within focus of the microphone that you could just pull her in, and there she was.
Though you don't call anymore, I sit and wait in vain. I want to tell you, baby, change is not going through. Missing you, listen you. Till you come back to me, that's what I'm gonna do. Giving him something he can feel. Giving him something he can feel. Giving him something he can feel.
That closes Aretha's Atlantic period. In 1980, she left Atlantic and signed with newly formed Arista Records, headed by Clive Davis. Aretha did not, contrary to popular myth, leave Atlantic because of any dispute over control. It was a simple matter of the mighty dollar. Arista met Aretha's monetary requirements. The Arista period was no doubt the beginning of a new phase in Aretha's career, as she faced an ever-changing pop and R&B landscape. The Arista phase would certainly expose her to a significantly wider and younger audience. Aretha's debut on Arista, appropriately titled Aretha, featured her first modest hit for the label, What a Fool Believes. This song, while only a modest hit, demonstrated Aretha's ability to take an ordinary pop song and make it her song, giving it a heart and a soul. Arista president Clive Davis, like Jerry Wexler before him at Atlantic, gave Aretha the support and guidance, teaming her with younger producers like Luther Vandross and Geraldo Michael Walden on the songs Jump to It and Love All the Hurt Away.
Girl, I got to go. Got to go, man, really. Yeah, I'm kind of in a hurry. Uh-huh. Here's the reason why. Jump to it. I really skip and I jump to it. Take another look and tell me, babe. Still a woman who will remember my name. I'm the one who beat you at your game.
After producing Love All the Hurt Away, Walden would go on to produce Aretha's first million-selling album on Arista, titled Who's Zoomin' Who, which would result in 3 hits for the Queen of Soul: Who's Zoomin' Who, Freeway of Love, and Another Night. Despite the limited success of Aretha during the Arista phase of her career, she was and still is regarded as the Queen of Soul. That label will forever stick with her, even while her trips to the recording studio have become less frequent and the steady flow of hits have slowed to a trickle. Her instrument, her voice, has retained its strength. Her phrasing and timing has not lost any of its beauty and punch with the passage of time. Here is Dionne Warwick.
She stays tuned in to what's happening today musically. She stays tuned in with producers of today, musicians of today, styles of today, without leaving her own. I don't think there's a way in the world that Aretha could ever record anything that you would not know immediately that that's Aretha Franklin.
Aretha continues to update herself with new styles and new audiences. Here she is getting in touch with the hip-hop generation on A Rose is Still a Rose, produced by the Fugees. The time has come for us to do the honors, and this is a great pleasure for me. I'm a little nervous up here tonight, I must agree. But it's a great pleasure to induct Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, into the Kiss FM Legends Hall of Fame. Miss Franklin, thank you. Thank you for all your great hits, your many great performances, and of course, you bridging the gap between gospel music and R&B. Thank you, Aretha, for all the great hits and the many memories you have given us with your unique vocal style. You have truly cleared the path for such notables as Shaka Khan, Natalie Cole, Whitney Houston, just to name a few. And you have lifted our souls from beginning to end with your music. You are truly one of America's great R&B songwriters, performers, and vocal stylists. On behalf of the staff and management of Kiss FM and our audience, we thank you for being the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. We are deeply indebted to you for your contributions to R&B and classic soul music.
I'm still growing, and my music is ever-changing. With respect to things that I haven't done, I've got a million songs to sing and a lot of things that I'd like to do.
Once again, congratulations to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, for being our latest inductee into the Kiss FM Classic Soul Legends Hall of Fame. Special thanks to our production coordinator, Jay Dixon. Original music by Isaac Hayes. To our music historian, Johnny Meadow. Former Atlantic President, Jerry Wexler. Legendary Atlantic engineer, Tom Dowd. And noted music biographer and author of the upcoming biography on Aretha Franklin, David Ritz. Fame R&B producer, Clyde Orders. And a special thanks to Dionne Warwick and our very own Isaac Hayes. Our show was written and produced by Bob Slade and Bob Pickett. Associate producer, yours truly. Executive producer, Bob Pickett. My name is Lenny Green. Thanks for listening. Kiss FM Classic Soul Legends Hall of Fame.